This is Distinction Learning Center, the light of education. Our topic for today is still Mathematics 10 Commandments, in which we are proceeding to the last commandment, which is multiplication and division of fraction. Multiplication and division of fraction. This particular commandment has three rules. It has three rules, which are rule 1, rule 2, and rule 3. Now, rule 1. Let's start from rule 1. Rule 1 states that A over B times C over D equal to A times C over B times D. Now, how do we arrive at this? Now, how we arrive at this is, you will multiply the numerator of the first fraction by the numerator of the second fraction, which is what? A times C. So, this is how we arrive at this A times C here. And also, you now multiply the denominator of the first fraction by the denominator of the second fraction, in which we arrive at what? B times D. Now, after doing that, you now solve A times C. Now, A times C is what? AC. And B times D is what? BD. So, that is how we arrive at what? AC over BD. So, that is rule 1. Now, let's now proceed to rule 2. Rule 2 says that A over B times B over D. Now, what this rule is trying to explain is that is any number or any fraction that are divisible, you will divide it. Now, what it's trying to explain is that a situation whereby there is a numerator that is divisible by the denominator, you have to divide it by simplifying it. Now, let's say for instance, now here we have A over B times B over D equal to A times 1 over 1 over D. A times 1 times 1, A times 1 divided by 1 times D. Now, what we are trying to say there is that since this B is divisible by this B, so what we are going to do is to cancel it. Are you getting it? So, is to divide it. Now, how are you going to divide it? You just say B here 1, B here 1. So that means what's now left will now be what? A times 1. So you now multiply this A by this 1, which is what? A times 1. And also this one here, you will multiply it by what? By this D, which is what? 1 times D. 1 times D. So that is how we arrive to this particular expression here. So now, after doing that, you now simplify the expression by saying that A times 1 will give us what? A. And 1 times D will give us D. So that is what rule 2 is explaining. Now, let's now move to rule 3. Rule 3, we call it reciprocative rule. That is reciprocating rule. Now, what this rule is trying to say is that a situation whereby you want to divide fraction, how are you going to solve it? Now, you want to divide this fraction by what? By this fraction. So, the rule is that we just say A divided by B. That is, you will first write out the first fraction, which is this. That is A over B. Now, this divide here, we change to times. We change to multiplication sign. Now, but on one condition. Now, what is the condition that will make it to change it to times? So, the condition is that the next fraction following the times, we reciprocate each other. That is, the denominator will go to the numerator, and the numerator will come to what? The denominator. So that is how we arrive at this D over C. You can see that this D come to what? Numerator, and this C come to what? Denominator. So that is the rule. So we call it what? reciprocating rule. So now, since you understand that, so that means what we now have left will be what? A times D. That is what? This A multiplied by what? This D. That is, you multiply this A by this D. That is the numerator by the numerator. That is the first rule. Now, and the second one is what? B times C. That is the denominator by the denominator. That is, you multiply B times C together. And if you simplify this, it's now about A times D will give you what? A times D will give you what? A D. And B times C will give you what? B C. So that is what the rules are trying to explain. Now, let's now move to the example section. Let's move to the example section. Here, we have 3 examples here in which we are going to start from this. Example 1. Now, example 1 says that 7 over 3 times 4 over 5. Now, how are you going to do it? That means we are going to make use of what? Rule 1. So, we are going to make use of what? Rule 1. And rule 1 says that what? You are going to multiply the numerator by the numerator. That is 7 times 4. So, that is how we arrive at this. Now, you will also multiply the denominator by the denominator. That is 3 times 5. So, that is how we arrive at this. So, you now simplify this particular expression by saying that 7 times 4 will give us what? 28. And 3 times 5 will give us what? 15. Give us 15. So that is how we arrive at what? 28 over what? 15. So that is example 1. Now, example 2 says that what? 5 over 4 times 4 over 15. Now, how are we going to solve this? So we are going to use what? Second rule to solve this. Now, second rule. Now, what is second rule? That is, if the numerator can divide the denominator, you can divide it. So that means they must be divisible before you can divide it. And you cannot divide numerator by numerator and also denominator by denominator. No, you can only divide the denominator by the numerator or numerator by the denominator. Do you understand? Good. Now, let's now proceed. Now, if you look at this particular question here now, you will see that this 4 can divide this 4. So, that is the reason why we divide it by saying that 4 here 1. So, you just say 4 here 1 and 4 here 1. So, that means what now remain will now be what? 5 multiplied by what? 1, which is what? 5 multiplied by 1. And this one will now be what? 1. 1 multiplied by what? 15. That is 1 multiplied by 15. Now, if you now simplify this now, it will give you what? 5 times 1, that is what? 5. And 1 times 15, that is what? 15. So, that is how we arrive at what? 5 over 15. And if you look at this 5 over 15, you can still simplify this what? 5 over 15. Are you getting it? So, by saying that, if you look at the fraction, you will look at a number that can divide the numerator and the denominator. And the number is what? It's 5. The number is 5. That is 5 here 1, 5 here 3. So that is 5 here 1, 5 here 3. So that means we have what? 1 over 3 left. So that is how we arrived at what? 1 over 3. So that is that one. Now, let's now move to example 3. Example 3. Now, example 3 says that 4 over 3 divided by 2 over 9. 4 over 3 divided by 2 over 9. So, how are we going to solve this? So, we are going to make use of what? Rule 3. Rule 3. That is reciprocating rule. Now, what this one is trying to say is that the first fraction here, you will first write it out. That is the first fraction here, you will write it out. So that is the reason why we write 4 over 3 out. Do you understand? Now this divide will now change to what? Multiplication. This divide will change to what? Multiplication. but on one condition, and the condition is you are going to apply reciprocating rule. That is, the denominator here will come to what? Numerator. While the numerator here will come to what? Denominator. That is, they are going to change. I get it? So they are going to change position. That is, the denominator will go to numerator, while the numerator will come to what? Denominator. Do you understand? So now that is how we arrive at what? So that is how 2 over 9 change to what? 9 over 2 here. Are you getting it? So now we now apply rule 1 here by saying that what? 4 times 9, that is this 4, we multiply what? This 4 times 9. And also 3 times 2, that is the denominator will also multiply the denominator, that is what? 3 times what? Times 2. So we can make use of rule 1 or rule 2 here, because since this 3 can divide these 2, so you can make use of what? Rule 2 here, that is the divisibility rule. That is 3 here 1, that is 3 here 1 and 3 here 3, and say 4 times 3, 12. So and also you can also make use of what? Rule 1. So but here now I make use of what? Rule 1 here by saying that 4 times 3, that is 4 times 9 and 3 times what? 2. Now that is how we arrive at this particular expression here. Are you getting it? Now we now say 4 times 9. So 4 times 9 will give you 36, and 3 times 2 will give you 6. So that means we have what? 36 over 6. Now since this 36 over 6 can divide each other, so we can easily say that what? 6 here 1 and 6 in 36, that is 6. Now so that is how we arrive at this. That is, say 6 here 1 and 6 here 36, and 6 in 36, that is 6. So we now have what? 6 over 1 left. So that is, and 6 over 1 is what? Is 6. So that is everything about the example section. Now let's now move to the classwork. Let's move to the classwork. So I want you to take your pen, take your book, go through the classwork, do it, and make sure you get the answer. Because with all this explanation that you have been doing since, I have strong assurance that you will be able to solve the classwork very well. Now let's now start. I will solve it. After solving it, now play back the video and use it to and see it. Maybe you get the answer correctly or not. But if you don't get it correctly, don't feel bad. So just try to play the video again and look at it very well. With this, I have strong assurance that you'll be able to solve it. Now let's now start. Question 1 says that 11 over 3, that is 1, says that 11 over 3 times 4 over 2. Now how are we going to do this? We can apply rule 1 by saying that what? 11 times 4. 11 times 4 will give us, so, and the next one was 3 times 2. 3 times 2. That is, we multiply this 11 by this 4. That is 11 times 4. And this 3 by this 2. That is 3 times 2. Do you understand? So that is that. Now 11 times 4 will give us 44. 11 times 4 will give us 44. 44. And then 3 times 2 will give us 6. 3 times 2 will give us 6. Now, since we can still simplify this particular fraction, so that means if you want to simplify it, you just say 2 can go in both. 2 in 42, that is, 2 in 44, that is 2 in 4, 2. And 2 in 4 again, 2, that is 22. 2 in 6, that is 3. So that means our final answer will be what? 22 over what? Over 3. that is our final answer for this question 1, that is 22 over 3, that is equal to 22 over 3. 22 over 3. Now let's now move to the second question. We state that 8 over 3, that is second question. We say that 8 over 3, 8 divided by 3, 8 over 3 times 12 over 14. So how are we going to solve this? So we can use divisible method for this. Now that is 3 here 1 and 3 in 12, that is what? 4. Even you can still simplify this one too. That is 2 in 8, that is what? 4. 2 in 8, that is 4. And 2 in 14, that is 7. That is 7. So now, what now left? We have what? 4 at the numerator here. This 4 multiply by what? This 4. That is times this 4 up here. So over, and what we have at what left at the denominator side? So we what? 1 times 7. So that is what? 1 times 7. So we multiply this by what? 7. And the final answer here. So our final answer will now be what? 4 times 4, that is equal to 4 times 4 is what? 16. And 1 times 7 is what? 7. So that is our final answer there. So that means our final answer for second question is what? 16, 7. That is what? Equal to 16 over 7. 16, 7. Do you understand? Now, let's now move to the third question. Now, the third question is 5 over 6, 5 over 6 times 30 over 45. So we can still use our divisible method for this one too. Since 6 can go here 1 and 6 in 30 is what? Is 5. 5 here 1 and 5 in 45, that is 9. 5 here 1 and 5 in 45, that is 9. So what now remains is what? At the numerator side we have 1 times what? Times 5. 1 times what? 5. That is 1 times 5 over this numerator by this numerator. So that is 1 times 9. 1 times 9. We should now give us what? Equal to 1 times 5 is what? 5. And 1 times 9 is what? 9. So that means our final answer is what? 5 over 9. 5 over 9 for question 3. 5 over 9. So that means it is what? 5 over 9. 5 over 9. Now, let's now move to the last question on the classwork section, which is what? Which is 7 over 6. It is the fourth question. 7 over 6. 7 over 6 times 4 over 3. 4 over 3. So how are we going to do this? We can still use our divisible method if you like, or we can also use rule 1 direct method. Now, if you want to use divisible method, so you can say that 2 can go in 4 2 times, and 2 can go in 6 3 times. So that means what we have left, we now got 7 and 2. That is what? That is what? 7 times 2 over this denominator, 3 times 3. 3 times 3. 3 times 3. And that one will also give us what? So we now simplify it by saying that what? 7 times 2 is what? 14. 7 times 2 is 14. And 3 times 3 is what? Is 9. So that means our final answer is what? 14 over 9. 14 over 9. So our final answer is what? 14 over 9. 14 over 9. So with this, I have strong assurance and strong belief that you'll be able to solve any question pertaining to multiplication and division of fraction. My name is Simid from Distinction Learning Center.